I've never met anyone do anything better than you do therapy. So I want to know, like, why are you good at it? What do you do exactly?
Mm-hmm. There's a long answer and the short answer. The long answer takes about 40 years. The short answer is more and more it's very simple. What I do is very simple and difficult. It's like I want to be totally present and empty and present with the client so that there's nothing interfering with what I hear and what I see.
Yeah.
It all comes into me. And at first it's like the old-fashioned television sets, the signal's kind of blurry or confusing or the static or whatever. But after about 10 minutes, it starts to get more fine-grained, really fine-grained. And then I start to have this experience that I'm on the same page. That is, I've entered into the reality that the client's been transmitting or communicating to me. Now we're both in the same reality. And I'm saying, I think what you're saying is blah, 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 blah. And I'm saying it with some not false modesty, because I know that the subtlety of the person's experience needs to be, the more I can honor the subtlety of their experience, the more they'll involuntarily be drawn towards me.
And what when that starts to happen? Like how is that therapy? I know it is. I've experienced it myself. But so you're saying I empty myself and I'm just trying to listen and merge with their subjective experience. And then once that happens, something else starts to happen. It sounds like you're saying.
Oh, they seem to lose their self-consciousness.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And now we're both looking at the experience, right? Here's the experience, and the client's been describing it to me, and I think I'm getting it. Is this what you're telling me? Because I want them to correct me. Mm-hmm. And if I do a good job of paraphrasing or echoing, or it's like tasting wine. The subtleties of the taste, right? If I do a good job of that, they'll say, yeah, and they'll go deeper. Yeah.
It's almost like they want to do that. They want to go deeper into their experience, but they can't do it until, or that force within them that wants to go deeper can't do it until they feel as though you're not judging them or you're not.
That's huge.
Yeah.
The non-judgmental thing. If they think I'm going to judge them, they're going to be careful what they say. And that's why I said to you earlier, it takes, I said to them, your trust in me should be minimal. Right now, you don't know me.
Yeah.
But, 10 sessions from now, or 8 or 5, it'll be a completely different relationship, because you will build up some trust, and I will build up my trust with you. So then we can get onto that platform easier, the shared platform. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, I started doing...
Just a second.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. So I've been thinking a great deal lately about when it's just in your head. Say I'm the client.
Yeah.
And I'm worried about something. I'm worried about how attracted I am to somebody other than my partner. Yeah. I'm worried about that. And it's just sort of rolling around in my head. And is it real? Isn't it real? What is it? What is this? No answers coming. But as soon as I speak it to somebody who is non-judgmental, it becomes real. So when I'm with my client, I feel like I'm a landing pad. That force that you're talking about, that is active in them, wanting to show up in the world. Yeah. That force wants to show up in the world. Yeah. And if it senses that I'm a reliable landing pad, it'll do that.
That's what I sensed in you. I realized in hindsight, we met when I was in school and I was 27, and then I started doing therapy with you, and I had never I only realized this in hindsight, but there was something I was drawn to, and I loved going to therapy, and I loved talking to you. But I couldn't really understand why, and I'm not sure if I still do, but like you gave me a certain amount of attention or presence that I had never experienced before. It was weird, and I have good friends and good parents and good family and good relationships in my life, but I never just sat with someone, I don't think, and just had them look at me the way you're doing it right now. Like there's something very powerful about it, or powerful might not be the right word, but the way in which you look at people or listen to people, or the presence, has an effect on me that I don't quite understand. But it forces me to, it doesn't force me to do anything, actually. But yes. Naturally, something starts to emerge that's beyond generic conversation, or that's beyond, in a good way, I become very aware of when I'm bullshitting and when I'm not, just based on whatever the hell it is you're doing over there, and whatever you're doing is unspoken. And I've referred many people to you, and I think basically every single person I've referred to you will try to communicate more or less the same thing. You have a presence about you that, I won't name the names, but the people that I've sent your way all come back. They've liked it, but they're they can't quite put the words into it.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
I've got a young guy who's coming to me. He's 20 years old. He's Chinese. He's very smart. He says, when I sit down opposite you, I feel like infinite power is coming towards me.
Yeah, it's something like that.
And when I stand up, you look like an ordinary human being.
Yeah.
And I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
That this arrangement and the layers of this arrangement over and over again, the channel opens up between you and I.
But how strategic are you in that? Are you sitting there with this client in your head thinking about doing the thing that it just happens?
Yeah.
And that's the 40 years you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that one of the I'm checking this out with you, but I'd say one of the experiences you've had with me is I treat you like an equal.
You treat me like an equal, and at the same time you embody the spirit of the wise old man. Like some archetype, I would say. So there's a real human connection who I don't feel is dominating me or has an agenda with me. And then at the same time, I would say, for me at least, you embody some sort of Jungian archetype.
That makes sense. I resisted a little bit because one of my highest values is authenticity.
Yeah.
And so when somebody puts something on me, projects something onto me that doesn't acknowledge that I am struggling with the human condition just like everybody else is, in the past I would push that away. Yeah. But now I'm more willing to hang out there. Yeah.
To be the archetype?
To be the archetype.
And why do you think that's shifted for you? Why are you more willing?
I'm not so careful about my identity anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you say a little more about that or explain that a bit? Why?
I think in the past I was always sort of monitoring myself and making sure that I was being authentic or something like that. Didn't want to slip. It's a slippery slope. You know, like you were saying earlier about when you're with me, you can tell the difference between when you're bullshitting and when you're being authentic. So that was incredibly important to me, to be authentic all the time. It's a little bit rigid, a little bit compulsive about being authentic all the time. And I think I'm much more relaxed now. I've got a very beautiful client who comes to me, and she's very smart as well, tough. She's got tough-minded in the best sense of that. And I said, do you talk to your friends the way you talk to me? And she says, no. I said, start talking to your friends the way you talk to me.
Yeah.
Because you'll find your tribe. You'll find the people that are in sync with you, and you're not finding those people now.
Why do you think she hadn't been doing it up to that point?
I think she's protecting herself. She's she's not only strong in the way I like, she's tough in the way I don't like. But she drops that toughness when she's with me.
Yeah.
But I think if somebody gives her a rough time, gives them the finger and says, "See you later, bye-bye," like it doesn't hurt her.
Yeah.
She pretends it doesn't hurt her. Yeah.
Can you say a little more about, maybe more, you can be general or specific, just people protecting themselves? That's something we talk about a lot. I feel like that's one of the lenses through which you view people when you're doing therapy. I'm sure you have different lenses, but how does this person protect themselves?
I think what's coming to me is a very vague and general answer.
Sure.
I've been thinking about masks. I've been in conversations with my client about masks, and the term mask has a negative connotation. Oh, you're phony, you're wearing a mask, something like that. But I think your private reality, Aaron Johnson's private reality, is not social. It's not social. And in order for Aaron to be in relationship to Larry or to Sally or anybody, he has to sort of suss out who this person is, what language is appropriate for this person, and the language that's appropriate with Sally is not appropriate with Larry or with Matt or somebody else, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we're constantly constructing a social presence when we're with somebody else, and it's somewhat removed from their core self or their private self, their subjective self.
A persona kind of
deal. A persona. Yeah.
And then something I've been thinking about with clients recently is like, I'll see their persona, it will show up, but I don't necessarily know if it's an awful evil thing.
You don't know what?
Sometimes that persona shows up in therapy, and you can see in which they're not acting necessarily, but it's the social aspect you're talking about that showed up. And the way I'm starting to kind of work with clients sometimes is to recognize that part of the process is for that persona to show up. And like, I'll give you an example. Like I said, I work with clients who are beautiful women, and they'll come into therapy, and I think because they've been objectified their entire life, they've developed this persona in response to that objectification. And so when they first start coming to therapy, that persona comes with them, and they get a bit flirty with me, or they get a bit...
They do their thing.
Yeah, it's nothing inappropriate. It's just, it's not that authentic. And maybe they're testing me, or maybe they're not, I don't know. But at some point, they realize I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to fuck them. I'm not trying to date them or anything. And that persona starts to dissolve, I would say. And then they usually get quite uncomfortable and aren't exactly sure how to navigate the social situation with this man who's their age, around their age. And then I find once they settle into that, what emerges is a wounded, insecure little girl.
Wow.
And that's not where the therapy begins, because the initial process was the beginning of the therapy for them to suss out whether I'm trustworthy or not. But that's when we really...
That's great. That's really good. Yeah,
I don't know.
And they're going to get uncomfortable.
That always seems to happen.
Yeah.
Flirty, kind of sarcastic, kind of they're doing their thing, they're whatever. And then it's gradually followed by, okay, well, now what the hell do I do? Yeah.
So what I see is if a client is very glib.
What does that mean?
It means very facile. They can say that the words just keep tumbling out of them, and they're really good at it. They're not doing therapy then. They're telling a story that they've told many times, or acting on a persona that they've done many times. And when they start groping, I think, no, It's sort of like this. No, this would be more accurate. When they start talking like that, then I know that they're touching the inner self. They're not being a persona. They're moving back and forth between their inner self and their persona. And they're trying to inform their persona with something more real.
They're integrating.
They integrate, yeah.
Well, I told you at the start, before we started recording, about that client, and at the end of our session, I said, and I said it in a respectful way, and I knew she could handle this comment, but I said, I feel for the last 20 minutes you hit play on a tape recorder. And I think you needed to hit play on that tape recorder. This is the one I said. She said, I need 2 or 3 sessions just to tell you my story, kind of thing. I stole that from you, by the way, the tape recorder thing. You had said that to me at some point. So
okay.
Yeah. That's what I think you're kind of talking about, is you have a story about your life or your childhood or this, and you can say it factually.
Yeah.
And so she's telling me these things that are highly traumatic and, deserve tears. But she's hit play on that tape recorder, and you can just see it's just her mouth moving. And she's telling, my dad did this, and then this happened, and then I was abused, and away it goes. And it's absolutely mind-blowing. I can do this too, but that people have the ability to do that, to just talk about these raw experiences in such a factual manner.
Yeah. So they're never opening up the story. The story is a finished product. It's the same story every time. Nothing is changing. For it to change, they have to open the present, go inside it.
How do you get them to do that? I mean, I know you don't force them, or you can't, but what is something go ahead.
I'll see a little glimmering of emotion in the story. There'll just be a little glimmering of emotion. I'll say, can you go into that a little bit more, what that is? So, when you asked me initially how I do therapy, the way I'm doing it now is I'm looking for signs of vitality. When the person starts getting excited and starts moving their hands around, or their voice starts going up and down and all over the place, as soon as they start doing that, if they're going up, I said, what were you just thinking about? What are you reacting to right now? Because or if their voice goes down and they start getting flat, I said, what's going on for you right now? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to collect data points. You and I are collecting these data points so that you've got a map about what empowers you and what is kryptonite for you, what makes you weak, and what makes you strong. So we're just trying to develop that map, and the way I'm doing it is by reading the vitality signs of the person I'm talking to.
So it's like they're talking, and there's a baseline, and away they go, and then you'll see something or sense something in their physiology that tells you that there's something there, and then you inquire.
What?
Then you inquire.
Yeah.
You always use the term map. I like that. What do you mean exactly when you talk about people's maps?
See, I think that I'm going to get personal here. My brother is in the hospital right now. He's dying of cancer. And I was with him yesterday. And I was having a hard time. I'm having a hard time with his condition. And my way I protect myself is through thinking. Thinking, conceptualizing, being cognitive. And I've decided that what really happens in life is we're changed in our body first. First, we're changed in our body. And then maybe 6 months later, we find a language to describe what happened. And when we find that language, here's my body, here's my mind, suddenly I'm whole. Right? So what was the question?
I don't remember. I was touched by what you told me about your brother. Maybe we both dissociated.
It's just sort of like my being has changed. And I used to think that the mind was leading the charge. now I'm realizing, no, the body is leading the charge, and the mind is always trying to catch up. Well, what the hell? What just happened? What just happened?
I notice that a lot with clients is they'll come into therapy and they're not exactly sure why they're there. But what they do know is something's going on in their body.
Yeah.
Their body is speaking to them. Their body is communicating something to them. Mm-hmm. That might be panic attacks. That might be insomnia. That some sort of symptom, physiological, somatic symptom is going on. And intellectually, they don't quite understand. They might have some idea. And so they get to therapy, and they can't exactly tell you what's wrong or why they're even there, other than this symptom. Mm-hmm. And then you start to unpack that symptom, and like you said, the mind catches up later. One of the many reasons I like doing therapy with you, for some reason, is your age. I don't know anyone your age. What's it like? How old are you?
82.
82. I keep telling people you're 84.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
My God, it was 2 years.
Your sauce thinks you're 84. Okay, I'll start to change that. What's it like being 82?
Very similar to what it was like when I was 45.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I'm always, there's a lot of thoughts going on in my head right now.
Take your
time. My vitality is super important to me.
Yeah.
So I cultivate my vitality. I eat well. I take good supplements. I work out. I do what I love. I talk to people that I enjoy.
Yeah.
All those things keep me, quality of my life is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see that when I look at younger people, I see they don't know what they're in for.
What do you mean exactly?
They think they're eternal, they're immortal. They think they're immortal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they think, oh, as soon as I get over this little hurdle that I'm in right now, then everything will be fine.
Yeah.
And then the next hurdle comes along. My son said to me the other day, he says, well, Dad, you'll be very proud of me. I climbed to the top of this mountain. And then I realized, oh, there's a whole mountain range here.
Yeah.
One thing after another. And so I think young people think if I just, mobilize my will and get really...
Just make this amount of money, if I just get this promotion, if I just get a girlfriend or boyfriend.
Well, I was noticing, when I asked you how old you were when you first met me, you were 27.
Yeah.
And, that's when people kill themselves, right?
Yeah.
At 27.
Kurt Cobain or overdose or something like that,
Yeah. But what I think it is I think it's a quarter-life crisis.
Oh, yeah.
And I just saw somebody writing about a quarter-life crisis, but I've been thinking about this for 10 years.
Tell me about it.
Prior to 2027, you think this is a 100-yard dash.
Yeah.
When you reach 27, say, oh my God, this is a marathon.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting age, I think, because high school is a distant memory, and 30 is right around the corner.
Yeah.
That's what I remember it being like that's when I went back to school to be a therapist, 27 or 28, I guess. And it's like when you're 23, you still remember high school. Grade 12 was 5 years ago, and when you're 27, you're really an adult now. And it's not too long until you hit 30 and you go, and then so I find that's the most common age that people come to therapy, 27 or 28.
Yeah. I
haven't studied that or collected the data,
but
it's so common for a client to come in when we say, how old are you? And they'll go 27 or 28.
Yeah.
That's when...
So when, am I cutting you off?
Yes, that's okay.
Say when I was 26, I was down in the West Indies. I did some LSD.
Oh yeah, now we're talking.
And then we went from there to England, and I remember feeling like I had been 18 until I turned 27.
Yeah.
And then I matured 9 years worth in 1 year.
Wow, yeah.
And that was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel I had no self-awareness whatsoever till I was 27. Obviously I did. Mm-hmm. But that's my kind of experience of it. When I look back at myself navigating my life from, 20 to 27, I think that was just I don't know what the analogy is.
Rinse, wash, and repeat.
Yeah, I was on autopilot, and I'm probably still on autopilot to some degree, but I was unconscious, and then I started having panic attacks and various other things happen. I started looking inwards, and I went, "Who the hell is this guy?
Who am I?"
Yeah, that sort of existential type question. You know? But I just wanted to say, I've told you this story before, but when I was 7, I was in my parents' minivan with my whole family. I don't remember what we were doing, but we were driving along, and suddenly I had the realization I was going to die, that everyone I knew was going to die. And not only were we going to die, but we were going to cease to exist for eternity. And I had known about death intellectually up to that point. My cat had died, these sorts of things. But for some reason in that minivan at 7, it hit me. And I still remember the feeling of that. And I couldn't comprehend it.
No.
I couldn't comprehend that one day it will be over and you don't wake up.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I want you to say to that, but yeah.
You've talked to me about this before, right? And
then I went through a period in my 20s where I was very obsessed with death. And I ruminated on it a lot. I don't anymore for some reason, but, So I just think it's interesting, you're 82, but you say, I feel like I'm 45. And do you think about death? Do you fear death?
For sure. Especially, with being with my brother. I'm with him once a week now, and it's not pretty, and it reminds me of being with my mother as she was fading away. And how can it be that this spirit that I knew, I can feel it withdrawing, the life force withdrawing from them.
Yeah.
Leaving behind kind of a husk. You know what I mean by a husk?
Not really, but I think so anyways.
It's sort of like it's a shape like a walnut has a husk.
Oh, yeah.
It's a shell, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that animates the shell is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. It's like a radio signal or your Wi-Fi signal is just disappearing on you. That's what I see when I look at him. His body is twitching, and it's his nervous system is running his body now, not his mind anymore. Yeah. So I see that, and I think that's down the road for me, no matter how many vitamins I take. Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you do with that?
I say, don't anticipate it. Don't bring it forward. Yeah. You're here right now. Enjoy what you got right now. Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's what Nietzsche said, by the way.
What did he say?
He said, you say yes to everything.
Okay.
If you're alive, say yes. Yeah. Yeah. Say yes to your depression. Say yes to your joy. Say yes to it all. Yeah. If you don't say yes to it, you're disconnecting from reality.
I feel worse when I say no to things. Mm-hmm. I have a tendency, I've gotten way better over the last few years. I think my default setting is to say no to everything, to withdraw.
I'm going to argue with you.
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah. I think that used to be your default setting.
Yeah, that's what Yeah.
I see you taking lots of risks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's getting a little crazy, though. Not crazy, but that's what I've noticed the last couple of years. I'm traveling, and I'll get back, and I'll travel again, and it's good in some sense. I also wonder if I'm running away from something, or if it's an overcompensation, or what. I don't know. I don't quite. Okay, go ahead.
How do you feel in this conversation? You feel like I'm with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Do you feel like you're with me?
Yeah.
I forgot we were filming.
I was talking a lot, so I wondered if...
this is...
Yeah.
Don't talk. Yeah, no, I want you to talk a lot. Okay. I'm not... Yeah. Yeah. Keep talking.
this is a sort of a segue, but when you're talking about saying no, your default setting in the past was to say no. It made me think of what happens inside a person when they go against their own values. And when I go against my own values, I feel I'm twisted.
Yeah.
Something starts twisting in me.
Yeah.
And distorting, and I feel like that's my signal.
Yeah.
I'm going off track here.
Yeah.
Pull it back. Get back on your frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I find I'm working with a lot of clients come in, and I believe we have a conscience that's always watching us. So everything we do or don't do, there's something in us that's giving us feedback that's either saying, yes, that's the way to live your life, or saying, no, you're getting off track.
Yeah.
And so clients will come in, and they're operating in the world in a manner that goes against their own conscience. Yeah. And so they've found ways to try and numb that or distract them from that or get away from that, but they can't do it. And the more they cheat on their partner, the more they go down the road of being addicted to cocaine, or it doesn't have to be that drastic, but the more they get off path, the more those symptoms or that emotional distress speaks up, I would say. And it's just interesting to see. And it's not interesting, but...
And I think once you get off the path, once you're off your frequency, once you're off your integrity, you don't know that you're off your integrity.
No.
You lose that touchstone. Now, when somebody falls in love with somebody, I think the life force starts coming towards you, like this last girlfriend you had. You could feel something coming towards you, almost physical.
Yeah.
It's so strong.
Yes.
It's such a strong feeling. I think that's almost impossible to resist that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Lacan, a French psychoanalyst, said that desire evokes desire. So this woman... Yes,
yeah, that's
so
great.
True.
Yeah,
if the woman you're with is totally turned on by you, then you cannot help but be turned on by them.
Yeah,
unless you're disgusted by them or repulsed by them, you're going to have a strong reaction.
Yeah,
usually it's going to be I'm in it too. Yeah, but you can have the repulsion one and disgust one as well. So that force is so powerful, it's almost like impossible to resist it.
Yeah.
But when you're a therapist, you better find some way of parking that or...
Yeah, I have no problem with that, which is very fortunate. Yeah. I really can. Clients just fit into the box of, not a box, but they're clients. Mm-hmm. And so it's quite fascinating for me to sit there with some gorgeous woman my age and just... genuinely, I'm not even attracted to her, even though intellectually I know she's attractive because she's a client. Mm-hmm. And it's very useful. So, or unless I'm lying to myself, I don't think I am, though.
You're a lucky man.
Yeah, no, because,
that you can do that.
I can't do that in my love life, that's for sure. But for some reason, when it's therapy, it's no problem whatsoever. But I think it's the fact that I can so genuinely do it that causes... the projection, part of the projection and the attraction on the other end, because I genuinely want to know. I genuinely want to know them. I'm not trying to get anything from them. And every man they're interacting with in their life is trying to possess them or trying to, put them on a mantle like a trophy sort of thing. And so, it's interesting. I bet, What should we talk about now? What were you like as a little boy?
I don't think I was aware of death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you happy? Were you a fighter?
Happy.
Were you out picking fights and getting...
I was getting in lots of fights.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I was pretty happy, too. We always lived close to the forest, where we had forest on our property. And so long as I was out playing in the forest, I was a happy camper.
What do you think set you up to be a therapist?
I remember my English teachers were always the best teachers. They actually believed in what they were doing.
Yeah.
The other teachers, the science, social studies, all those guys were earning a paycheck to support their families. So they would, the English teachers would take me into Shakespeare. And I thought, oh my God.
Yeah.
There's an inner life.
That's incredibly, see, we've been doing therapy for, I had no idea. How I became when I track my journey, not to make it about me, I just want to, it started with being in university and taking a Shakespeare class. And there was this professor, was this little guy, and he'd wear a dress shirt that was about 3 sizes too big for him. And he'd walk in, he's this little nerdy guy, and he would start to analyze or explain Shakespeare. And I found it fascinating. It was like the only course I'd attend. I would skip all my other classes, but I'd sit at the front and take notes. Mm-hmm. And this guy was talking about Julius Caesar and Hamlet. And I don't want to say the psychology, but the human nature aspect of it. And that was the first exposure I had to kind of, I don't know what exactly, but that's just very interesting you say that. Yeah.
So one of the big concepts in philosophy is contingency. And that's a fancy word for meaning accident.
Oh, yeah.
There's an accident that you got that English teacher.
Yeah.
It wasn't a plan. You didn't have that planned out. Your mom didn't plan it for you. You just, there you were.
Yeah.
And the spark jumped from him to you.
That's what happened when I met you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah. And so I'll just say it because people will listen to this conversation. We both know the story already, but I was in school to become a therapist. You walk in the room, never met you before, don't know anything about you. You walk in and the first thing you said is, I'm interested in what's real. And I had a reaction to that. I didn't understand exactly what you meant by that, but that sentence or that line sparked me in some manner. And then you had my attention. And then I went, okay, this guy is important in some way, or I'm going to learn from this guy, or I want what this guy's got, or something like that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that changed everything for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some thoughts I have around that. I'm glad it did.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But you seem to have a readiness in you, both with that Shakespearean teacher.
Yeah.
There's a hunger in you that you didn't even know how to identify.
Yeah.
But when you saw the answer or pathway, you were sitting in the front row, you were taking notes, and the same thing happened in my class. You said, that same feeling was there.
Yeah. Pay attention,
this is important.
Yeah. I want to tell you a story. I think I've told you this, but I'm not sure if I have. And so in my 20s, my strategy was I would reject women before they could reject me. So I'd get attached to a woman, and then the first sign that they were losing interest, or not even a sign, just something I would make up in my head, I'd find a reason to not like them, trick myself into not liking them and reject them, sort of thing. So we started doing therapy, and I really liked you. And then on our 3rd or 4th session, I knocked on your door, and you opened the door, and you said, I didn't know we had a session today. And I went, yeah, we have a session at 3. You said, okay, come on, no problem, come on in. And as soon as that happened, my mind changed, and I started to think, fuck this guy. He doesn't give a shit about me. He just wants my money. Or he probably thinks I'm a pussy and is making fun of me, after our sessions. And so my mind started to produce all these reasons to reject you. And so the thing, whatever that was I was doing with women, showed up with you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
What do you have I told you that before?
No.
Okay. Well,
that's shocking.
Thoughts and reactions to that.
I think I'll leave now. No, my mind was going there just before you said that. I thought, I wonder if Aaron did that with me. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about this transformative learning stuff?
No.
Okay, fair enough. We'll talk more about my insecurities.
I will,
my issues with women.
I want to say something. I used the word surging earlier.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
No.
Yeah. I was talking about when you connect with something, with somebody, it's almost like something is surging.
Yeah.
Your life force is surging towards that person, right?
Yeah.
So that connects to what we were talking about earlier. When this woman that you're seeing thinks that you get her, she starts to surge towards you.
Yeah.
And now she's coming out of herself.
Yeah.
And I think the big danger for all of us is to be in our heads.
Uh-huh.
To live inside our minds rather than living in the world.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, I think, to view what's becoming popular among young people. I mean, the young people, but it's all kind of primitive Eastern philosophical kind of stuff. Like people are into meditating and grounding and forest grounding. I'm into jiu-jitsu and psychedelics are becoming really popular and yoga and all these sorts of things. And so as people become more isolated and addicted to their phones and more in their head and in the virtual world, at the same time, the culture and the society is also leaning into all these kind of philosophical things that bring people into their body and bring them present. It's just interesting to see those two kind of polar opposites go.
Yeah. I think you just described the culture wars.
Oh, yeah.
Really, because, some people say, I want to be a robot. I want to scroll on my phone all day long. They don't say that, but their behavior is saying that, right?
Yeah.
And then there's this other group of people who are saying, no, I've got to get clean. I've got to get lean and mean. I've got to be in integrity with myself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to survive unless I do those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something
I've been doing the sauna a lot lately.
Yeah.
I go sit in a sauna, and I can't have my phone in there. And it's amazing how hard it is to enjoy it. My body enjoys it. I experience the physiological benefits of doing it. I feel good when I'm in there. And then there's a part, my mind, not all the time, but usually is trying to get me the fuck out of there. To go check my phone, to go back to my little apartment, to go eat lunch, go do something. It's like, and so my body's calm and relaxed. My mind's saying, okay, when's this done? When's this done? When's this done? It's just...
Well, the way I would put it is I'm plagued by the same thing that you're describing here. And I would call it my to-do queue. Okay. There's a queue of tasks that are set up in my head, and it's got 12 items on it. And you guys were going to get here at 10:15. You got here at 10:30.
Yeah.
Oh my God, 15 minutes. I could have written a paper, built a cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of a driven quality. So like it's a program installed. If I don't get on top of all this, the avalanche is going to catch me.
Yeah.
Everything is going to fall apart, right? So and I think most people set up that queue inside themselves that they're, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, I find that's what I like about doing therapy with clients, is it forces me to be present.
Yeah.
You can't do therapy and be thinking about what you're doing after. Well, you can, but...
You won't see that client.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And so... But, okay, teach me something about transformative learning.
I'm very impressed with your attention span, Aaron.
Oh, what do you mean?
That you can remember that's what you've been trying to talk about.
Yeah, no, well, didn't you tell me you went to a conference recently?
Yeah.
Or that's like the thing you speak about.
So basically the idea is that we go through life and we have a set of programs. Our ego is just a set of programs, like a computer program. If this happens, then do that. Mm-hmm. We just build that up. Basically what I think happens is when we're born, when we're little babies, we're given an impersonal consciousness. Mm-hmm. We're born with an impersonal consciousness. It's our endowment in our life force. Yeah. And then we use that impersonal consciousness to map out our experience. When I cry, Mommy comes and puts her nipple in my mouth. That's an if-then protocol. Oh, I could do that on purpose. I could cry on purpose. And then so I built up a whole realm of if-then rules.
Yeah.
And I think that's Larry Green.
Yeah.
I start to identify, and that's my personal consciousness. And it's more dependable than Mummy was.
Yeah.
Or my friends were. So I started attaching to that. And then I arrive at a situation in life where I don't have any script. Something happens to me and I'm at sea. I'm disorientated. I don't, what the fuck is going on here? I have no clue. I'm going to have to fake it to get over this incident. And that begins just like you had a experience of your own mortality when you were 7 years old.
Yeah.
That is the hugest disorientating dilemma of them all. And that mobilizes something existential. Your spiritual self says, I have to come to terms with this. Before you get to that point, I was working with a lawyer last week, and she has death consciousness. And I said, so what do you do? What are your coping techniques for dealing with it? She says, I either endure it until it passes, or I distract myself.
Yeah.
So I would say that when it's too big for most people, they'll endure it. They'll just hang on until it's passed, or they'll distract themselves with scrolling or whatever.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, they'll say, I'm not going to live the rest of my life like this. I mean, I can't live with this fear all the time. I have to come to terms with it. That's when they start to have a transformational experience.
Is that acceptance? Is that a creative act? Is it both?
I think it's both.
Yeah, okay.
It's I am going to die.
Yeah.
That's a fact. What am I going to do with that? How am I going to spend that? How am I going to spend my time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned something more?
Yeah, a couple of things.
Yeah, please.
So I think you adapt some rules. So one of the rules might be, if I'm nice to everybody will take care of me.
Yeah.
So that's a premise. Remember you mentioned every premise? The premise is, if I'm nice to everybody, they'll take care of me.
Yeah.
And so you do that, and after a while you start noticing they're taking advantage of you and they're not taking care of you. And then you're at a crisis point.
The premise doesn't work.
The premise doesn't
outdated.
work.
Yeah.
Do I become an asshole now? Do I still be a nice guy because I don't know what else to do?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm walking through the valley of the shadow of death.
Yeah.
Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. I'm all at sea.
I asked you a little while ago what my premise was. Do you remember what you said?
Yeah.
What was it?
You think that knowledge will save you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you say that?
Because I see some of me in you.
Yeah.
And I certainly used to think that knowledge would save me. Yeah.
It doesn't work, though.
No. The last 5 years, I've started saying to people at these conferences, I said, I don't think it's a matter of knowledge anymore. I think it's a matter of faith, trust, confidence, courage. Those four things are all what's called conative things, not cognitive, conative. They're not... Courage has nothing to do with knowledge.
Yeah.
Faith has nothing to do. Trust, confidence.
That's why I mentioned earlier your age, right? And people my age don't talk about courage. That's what I find when I talk to you, or I read Rollo May, or some of these old guys. They talk about words like courage and these sorts of things, which are, essential to being alive and being a human being. But they say, nobody my age talks about courage. Then you meet a wise old man like yourself, and all of a sudden he's talking about your courage. You go, oh shit, that's right. I need courage.
Oh yeah.
I have it. It's somewhere in there, but it's needed. But that sort of language or vocabulary seems to have died.
Discipline is another word that I use a lot. And old guys use the word discipline a lot. If you don't have discipline, you're just going to be all over the place.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So courage. So I said to you that I saw a change in you 2 or 3 sessions ago. I saw that you were able to marshal your courage very quickly. Yeah. You weren't taking the back door. you're walking right into whatever you were afraid of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, a couple of days ago, I woke up. I wasn't in a good mood. I was feeling kind of weak, and I had a client come in, and I said, "Okay, you're going to be useless unless you summon something. You summon your attention. Summon your attention. Why should I have to summon my attention? Shouldn't I be strong all the time? No, you're going to have to summon your attention. And courage is like that, like, okay, something is on my to-do list 4 days in a row. I haven't done it. Why? I'm afraid of it.
Yeah.
Fifth day, I say, you're not allowed to do anything until you do that.
Yeah.
Summon your courage.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I do that in extreme ways. What I've noticed about myself is I'll live a very structured routine life. I'll live the same day over and over again, and then I'll go, fuck it, I'm going to Brazil. And I'll impulsively book a trip to Brazil, and then I'll go to the slums of Brazil and walk around the place you're not supposed to walk around in. And then I'll fly back home months later, 3 weeks later, I'll go back into my routine. And I like my routine. It keeps me safe. It keeps my life predictable, and then it starts to suffocate me. And then I'll go, fuck it, I'm going to Mexico. And I'm not saying that's good or healthy. It's probably good in some ways or healthy in some ways, but
I think they're extremes.
Yeah.
Right? And then that you move towards the middle with both of those. So that, I talked about my to-do list, and the to-do list is oppressive for me. If I've got a queue of things I'm supposed to do today, I'm being oppressed all day by that list. Or I say, okay, what do I want to do first? Oh, yeah, okay, I'll do that. Oh, I got that done. Reach for the next item, but I'm not carrying the item in my head all the time. So I get a break. I don't have to go to Brazil. I don't have to go to Mexico, because I get a break from the onslaught of demands coming towards me. Most of those demands are coming from inside of me, not from outside of me. I set the ones up outside of me. I've set them up. So now I know how not to do that. How to get empty.
What am I trying to ask exactly? What's the most, without like too many details, or unless you want, but like what's the most like touched you've ever been with a client? Or like, maybe not that you have them ranked in a top 10, but just like, maybe just tell me something kind of like beautiful or scary or anything, experience and all. How long have you done therapy for?
52 years.
52 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so just whatever kind of comes to mind in 52 years of doing therapy.
Well, I have this other client who I worked with for 15 years. He's very intelligent.
Yeah.
He doesn't dare hope. He goes to therapy, but he doesn't hope.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you hope? If I hope, I'll get crushed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he'll come to a session, and I'll start working with him using all my sophisticated techniques and skills and knowledge. Nothing works. At a certain point in the session, I'll say, oh, I see. You're still building your prison. Okay. Yeah.
But you don't want to take that prison from him, or you don't.
I can't take it from him. Yeah. The best I can do is point out that that's what he's doing. Is he's building he's reinforcing his prison. Yeah.
And so is he receptive to that, or?
I don't think you can avoid being receptive to that, because you know right away what Larry just said is true. That's all I'm doing is just I'm building this prison, but I didn't know it.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that he's building a prison, but his therapist says, oh, I see, you're still building your prison, okay.
So what did you, in the 15 years of working with him, like what did you see kind of emerge with him?
Not much.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, until a woman seduced him. Really?
Yeah, no, I believe I'm laughing because how true that is. What happened after the woman
He
seduced?
thought he was doomed. He thought a spell had been cast on him.
Yeah.
He was going to live a loveless life.
Yeah.
And then this woman falls in love.
Oh, it is so common that I'll be working with a client and they're depressed or they're this or they're that, and not much progress is being made, but you know, they like me and I like them, and we're doing something that resembles therapy. And then they'll fall in love or meet a woman or meet a man or something like that, and I'll never see him again.
Yeah.
Or I won't see him until that relationship ends, sort of thing.
That's right.
That connection, that intimacy was the medicine.
Yeah.
It wasn't intellectual conversation
Yes.
with Aaron Johnstone. They met another human being and connected.
Yeah.
And what do you know? Their depression went away.
Yeah.
Their loneliness went away. Their symptoms that brought them to therapy, all of a sudden were gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this guy, his symptoms go away, and then the problems starting showing up in the relationship, and that's the next stage of growth, right?
Yeah.
You say, well, I was doomed. Then I wasn't doomed.
Yeah.
Now I'm doomed again,
Yeah.
but on a different plane, and it's workable. Larry can work with me on that plane. Yeah. Anyway, how he touched me is I sort of semi-retired about 2 years ago, and I started offloading my long-term clients.
Yeah.
And he said to me, I've never told you this, but your patience was incredible.
Yeah.
And your consistency was incredible. You always held your ground.
Yeah.
You never changed. And after a while, I just started to trust it.
Yeah.
And thirdly, I know you're going to die. And I don't want to lose you.
Yeah.
So he said those three things, they were from his healthiest part of his being, came towards me. And as he said those things to me, he became real to me.
Yeah.
Prior to that, he was a client. He was a person too, but mostly a client. Mostly a client. But when he said that, he became real.
Yeah.
So I sent him an email recently in which I said, you know, that he's a human being. He wants social connection.
Yeah.
I said, when you gave me that recognition, when you recognized what I had done for you, you became real to me.
Yeah.
Keep doing that.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Keep doing that with people. Recognize them. As soon as you recognize them, they'll recognize you.
Yeah, I'm not trying to piggyback off what he said, but I've thought about this before. I won't do therapy after you die. I just know that.
You won't do therapy after I die?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No. I think this experience came along in my life, and it is what it has. Like many experiences in life, it has a timeline to it.
Yeah.
And we're not at the end of that timeline.
Yeah.
But I think when that day comes, that will be it for me. What do you think of that?
It surprises me.
Yeah.
It seems like an ultimate statement.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's good or right. That's just what I think about and what I feel.
I'm going to segue off that, if that's okay.
Yeah.
It was quite meaningful.
Yeah.
You said it was quite meaningful. Lately, I've been thinking about the difference between what's real and what's true. I think most people think that what's real is true. Yeah. But I think you just said something real. I don't know if it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Yeah. So, but I honor the realness of it.
Yeah.
And then maybe 6 months down the road, you'll say, oh, what was I saying to Larry there? Now I see it differently.
Yeah, I definitely could change my perspective on this. The problem I've had is, well, like I said at the start, I've never seen anyone do anything better than you do therapy. And it's interesting because I started going to therapy while I was in school to become a therapist. And I think you've taught me how to do therapy without trying to teach me how to do it. Me going to therapy you've implicitly taught me how to do therapy without trying to, sort of thing, right? And so I have I don't know what I have, but I have this model of what therapy is. I just can't imagine just going into some random person's office and doing therapy with anyone other than Larry.
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening. Of course, who knows? You know, it might happen, but
I think the odds of being disappointed were pretty high.
Yeah.
I think a lot of therapists don't want to pay the price. They don't want to gather their attention. They don't want to gather their courage. They want to use a formula, CBD formula. That keeps them safe. The technique will do the work. I don't have to do the work. We talked about transformative learning, and I say it's when your premise doesn't work. Here's a very bizarre example of a premise. I had a client who was probably schizophrenic, a harmless guy, and he told me once, he said that he was flying somewhere and there's a lot of turbulence, and his answer to that turbulence is, just love the plane.
Just love the plane?
Love the plane.
Okay.
I thought, okay, what's he really telling me there? When his life is dependent on something, his response should be to love it.
Okay.
That's what he did with his mom.
Oh, okay.
His mom was rejecting him all the time. His life was always in danger. And his way of mitigating that danger was to love his mother. And he just transferred that to the plane.
Would you mind if I'm curious about your mom, if that's okay. I'm not here to psychoanalyze you or turn this into therapy. But again, I had this realization leading up that I don't know much about you. And you don't have to tell me anything too personal or whatnot, and we won't post anything. But
so I was over at my brother's apartment yesterday. First I went to the hospital and visited him, then I went to his place to get some stuff for his son. And I came across some pictures of my family that he had. And I'm looking at my mom and I see she's depressed. In the picture, I could see that her depression. She was orphaned by the time she was 6. My father was orphaned by the time he was 5. 2 orphans found each other. And what my mother did is she became a Christian. She had a heavenly father. She lost her. And so what she was able to give me was morality, not love. Fundamentalist Christian morality.
So how do you think that, I mean, I'm sure that affected you in a million different ways, but what impact did that have on you?
I started mocking a lot. Mocking primitive, what I saw as primitive Christian, naive. But, you know, I just read a book called Existentialist and Mystics. And in it, the author was saying that when we said God is dead, all that left us with was existentialism and mysticism. And so I went the mystical path, and the existential path. I'm sort of a mixture of those two.
I see that, Mystical path in terms of like psychedelics or?
Psychedelics, and I was in a Sufi group for a while.
What's that?
It's like a, say some Buddhists are mystical, and Kabbalah, Jewish Kabbalah is mystical. So the mystical is you have a direct relationship with the spirit. You don't buy into theology or dogma or doctrine. You're saying no, it's the direct experience that I'm after here.
Well, did you ever have any kind of significant psychedelic experiences?
Yes.
We don't have to talk about it if you don't want. I've never had one. I've tried to have them, but nothing ever happens of any significance.
I was so amazed at that. My experience, and the most profound experience I had is, as I was high, I was realizing that what I said earlier, everything that I thought of as myself was actually just a series of programs
Yeah.
that I had cobbled together in some way. It had nothing to do with a self. It was dead.
Yeah.
Just like my computer is dead unless I plug it in.
Yeah.
The current going through the computer makes it alive. The current going through me is me. That current is me. That's the impersonal consciousness that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
That impersonal consciousness, say, when you realize you're in a disorientating dilemma and you don't have any script for this situation you're in, you have to go back to the impersonal consciousness.
Yeah.
And there you can create a new premise that is wider and deeper and stronger than the premise that let you down.
When after the experience with psychedelic, like what comes next? What did you gain from it?
What came next was a lot of endurance and distraction.
Oh yeah, it was too much.
Too much.
Yeah,
way too much for me.
Yeah,
yeah.
You remember what happened when I tried DMT?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what you said to me?
No.
I told you I tried DMT 3 times and absolutely nothing happened. And you, without batting an eye, said your soul wasn't ready.
Yeah. you just turned that knob off.